We say to girls,
what is your podcast?
you can have ambition, but not too much.
Gonna be yapping and cackling away?
Naturally.
If I looked feminine, I would not be taken seriously.
I'm just a girl.
It's amazing how much you can get if you quietly, clearly, and authoritatively demand it.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Two Girls in the Market, the podcast. I'm Amber Haley, coming to you from the Big Island of Hawaii. I'm here with Rebekah Daniels, and we're here to...
From Washington State.
Yes, from the beautiful state of
PNW.
Washington, the PNW. And we are here to share stories, laughs, and conversations that empower women in real estate and in life. And today, this is an episode I'm really looking forward to because we are talking about how to love yourself. And yeah, the value of self-love, because it affects every area of our life. And it just feels like a really relevant topic always in my life. So I'm excited to jump in.
All right. Well, tell us your favorite way to love yourself.
Well, okay.
I have to cut that bit. It was in my head, and I'm like, I already know. I know all of our friends that are going to say
Do you
these
do this on purpose? Like, do you have these lines just of like, how can I set this up? How can I set this up to be like, get that reaction?
Yes, sometimes.
She's a mastermind. Becca's a mastermind.
If I see an opening, it's really hard for me not to like take advantage of it.
Yes. Okay.
Like and sometimes I set myself up, but if somebody else sets me up, then it's happening.
Okay. Well, here's where I'll start. I have discovered, like, within the last year, I've been on a journey of like really working on myself. And that's when I realized I really, really need to work on loving myself, learning to love myself. I was not living in a place for years and years where I truly, truly loved myself and saw myself as being worthy. So that's kind of like what got me on this journey. So before I get into the best ways that I do love myself, I'll tell you why. Like, I found out that I need to. I didn't realize it was something that I was struggling with. But within the last year, probably about like last summer, I realized like I hit a point in my life where my business and all of my relationships were struggling because I was not able to work through things and process things and love myself because of it. I saw that if I could not see my own value and my own worth and like really, really do the work to get through some of the hard things, that my business would not be as successful. And I would probably never have a successful relationship for the rest of my life because I was seeing patterns in both that were because I was allowing things to stay in my life. I didn't love myself enough to have, a higher level of things in my life. So I realized how important it was and that I needed to learn how to love myself. I didn't know how to love myself because of the things that I've been through in my life. So yeah, and I'm still learning how to love myself. So what's the best way that you love yourself? What do you do to love yourself?
I'm trying to think of the best way to put this because...
Do you feel like you love yourself?
I do. And here's where I'm kind of struggling, Amber, is deciding how open I want to be about, or how open I should be about my faith and Christianity on here, because that is such a big part of it, of like how and why I love myself is through my faith. And I'm like, is this a platform for that or not? And I guess it's not a platform. It's the truth of my life. It's the foundation of everything that I do. So it'd be weird not to share about that. But to answer your question, the way that I love myself is I try to love myself the way that Christ loves me. And so in those days and those moments where I am really hard on myself, and I don't have a lot of love for myself, I think about the truth of what God has said about me. And he says that I'm fearfully and wonderfully made. He says that I am chosen. He says that he loves me. So if our creator says that he loves me, how can I not love myself too?
Yeah, that's like a way that you can like mirror that back on yourself.
I think the other part of it is feeling worthy of love. And I think that's a lot of times if we're not loving ourselves, it's often because we don't feel like we're worthy of love. And so again, it's going back to what does God say? God says that we are worthy of love. And so focusing on those truths versus what any person says or does, because that doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
Compared to what Christ says.
Yeah, I mean, for me, one of the tools that I really found when I realized like I was at a point in life where I was not able to love myself because I had been through a series of really, really hard things in life and, really like abusive relationships and circumstances that really chipped away for a long time on my self-worth, like chipped and chipped away at it. So I just really didn't believe that I had that worthiness, like that self-worth. Like I really didn't believe it. And that's why I like kept going back into these like toxic patterns in work and toxic patterns with men and toxic patterns sometimes with like friendships and other people. And one of the biggest tools that I use to get that same self-reflection that you're talking about is, well, I did the work on myself and worked on treating my trauma and then also going to therapy and like working through some of these things. But I also really found a lot of value from my female friends in particular and my family as well, like my close family members. But the women in my life and the friendships that I fostered, they were like such a mirror back to me at like my worthiness. And when I look at my friends, like when I look at you and you're struggling with something, like it's so easy for me to be like, but I see your worth. Like you're so worthy. Like you don't, and with other people, when I look at my friends, I'm like, oh, but you're worth, it's so easy to see kind of the worth in other people, but not really in ourselves. And my female friends, like really, it does make me emotional to think about. They have like set such a high standard in my life now because they're like, we see that, you aren't loving yourself. Like we're going to show you like what love is. And they've given me space to be myself and to like have all the whole spectrums of needs and emotions and feelings that I have. And they've embraced that and they've loved that. And because I can see, oh, there's nothing wrong with me just for being myself. Like I've always thought there was something wrong with me because I didn't get, like love reflected back, but there's not. So for me, that was a really useful tool. Like my friends, my female friends were that mirror so that I could learn how to show up and act and believe like, yes, like I am worthy, just like they are. That's been really, really powerful for me. And I think it like really echoes the same thing you're saying with like your faith, like that should, because that is giving you your worthiness like that, then you just are. You are so lovable, regardless of external validation from other people or not.
Yeah, that was the key thing for me, is to stop looking
Yeah.
for that external validation. I looked for external validation for a really long time because there was a point in my life when I thought that I was garbage and I had no self-worth. And I looked for that from other people. I looked for it from like friendships or relationships or just like whatever my status was in life. And that didn't give me that self-worth. It didn't give me the validation. I mean, you may have it for the moment, you may have it for the day, but it's not lasting. And it never actually like helped me love myself.
Yeah.
Until I started refocusing my identity on Christ and I made him the center of my life again. And again, focusing on what does God say about me? Because a person, if I'm putting all of my value and my worth into what another person says about me, what happens when they change their mind?
Yeah.
What happens when they say, oh, I don't love you anymore. I don't think that you're beautiful anymore. Well, then that's taken away all of that value that I put on myself because it was coming from that other person.
Yeah.
But when
it's
it comes
really
from
dangerous.
God never changes. His truth is forever. It's lasting.
Yeah.
Not saying that like good friends aren't like a big part of that, because it is. Having good friends and having the right people around you is so huge for helping remind you of those things, those truths about you, the truths that God has said about each and every one of us, of saying, yes, you are valuable, you are worthy, and you do deserve love, and you are respected and loved by people around you. Those, we need to have those things too, for sure.
Yeah. It's like whatever tools can help somebody like get to see the truth about themselves, I think is really important. Yeah. But yeah, I got to a place where I was just not setting very good like boundaries in my business. And so that was like really a struggle. Or, in real estate, you have to have really thick skin because there's a lot of rejection and there's a lot of stress and there's a lot of challenges. Like it's one of the hardest jobs in the world. So especially as like a female real estate agent, like out there working, I think there's you will struggle like if you don't see your worth already, and you can't like learn to love yourself. Like it's really really going to hurt your business, and you're going to just feel really down, and you're going to be comparing yourself constantly to like the top producers and this or that, and like, wait, why am I not that? Why am I not this? Like this person didn't hire their cousin instead of me. Like what did I do wrong? Like, oh, am I not valuable enough that I've decided that Sundays are for me and my family and my own time and for my own sanity and to like clean my house and take care of my own needs. So I'm going to set a boundary with clients that I'm not available from this time to this time, but this is how we're going to work around that. Like all of these things that, you know, are really, really important. And then also just learning, you know, having the desire to better yourself. That really helps you up level your business too, and up level your motivation and success. So yeah, I realized like my business was really hurting because I didn't have like the tools, and I needed to work on the tools to like really see my value. And then I just realized like looking back with men, like I want to find somebody, I do want to like find a partner and have love. And like when I look back, I realized, wait, why is my type like 6'3", 6'4", and emotionally unavailable? Like, why is everybody that I date an asshole? Like, wait a minute, like, what am I allowing to stay in my life?
Yeah.
Clearly, this is a reflection of what I think I'm worth. And that,
Well, they have that saying, you teach people how to treat you. So if you allow people to treat you in a certain way, then those are the types of people that you're going to attract. If you think that you are a doormat, people will treat you like a doormat.
yes. Yeah. And it was really easy because I, you know, have been in relationships where there was abuse and gaslighting. And so it got really confusing in my head to really know what is true and what is valid, and am I worthy, and am I too much? Are my needs too much? Am I too emotional? Am I asking too much? Like, is me showing up as myself not good enough for somebody? Like, I was really muting myself and morphing myself around other people because I listened to that and allowed that rather than fostering the truths and the foundations of what I need from people. You know, that would make me reject anybody who does not meet those standards, or who will gaslight me into being like, you're not enough, Amber. You're not enough. You're not lovable as you are. Yeah, that was a big problem for me.
I'm curious. This is something that I definitely struggled with for a long time, and I'm curious if you did too. For a long time, because I'm kind of weird. I don't know if you've noticed. I'm a little different. It's kind of quirky. And for a really long time, I thought that was a bad thing. And I would kind of like, you know, try to tamper down a lot of those little quirky things that I do and the weird things to be like everybody else, because I thought that's like how I would be accepted by others. And yeah, I would say that was like a sign of not loving myself. But then when I decided to start loving myself and I started to appreciate my weirdness, the things that make me different and unique, and choosing to embrace it for what it is, I became so much happier. And then I also started attracting the right group of people who
The right
accepted me and loved me.
weirdos.
The right weirdos. You know, your vibe attracts your tribe. But like then it's like, and those friendships and those relationships became so much better than the ones that I had when I was masking who I really was, when I was trying to be like everybody else. And I think that's really important to recognize and love who you are as a unique individual, because we are all given all of these different gifts, we all have a different purpose in this life, right? So we can't all do the same thing. Just like in our body, the eyeballs have a different purpose than the nose and the mouth and the toes, and they're all equal in their worthiness. We need all of our body parts. I don't think anybody wants to lose one. So they're all valuable, but they all have a different job. And so that's what we need to do when we're looking at ourselves, is realize that we all have a different place and a purpose in this world. And when it comes to business, I'm bringing it back around. When it comes to business, when it comes to your brand identity, leaning into who you are and not trying to be like everybody else is so huge. But you can't do that unless you love yourself. Recognize your strengths, love you, and then build on that. And you will get the right people with you. You will get the right clients who won't treat you like a doormat. You'll get people who want to work with you, people that you want to work with. And then you also surround yourself with the right girl group or guy group, whatever it is, who are going to be there cheering you on from the sidelines and celebrating all of your successes instead of saying little side comments when you succeed. and
Yeah.
tearing you down because they feel bad about themselves, or they're jealous because you're successful.
Yeah. When you have that self-love and self-worth, and you can just be yourself without apology and have that confidence, you do attract the right type of client. You do differentiate yourself in the world, and you are like ultimately so much happier than trying to swim upstream. You got to like go with the flow in your life. And when things are not in flow and things are not aligned to the highest level of truth and love, like you have to let that go and just know it doesn't take away from you. And when you do that, like you're just talking about right now, like, wow, like your level of happiness goes up. Like you can radiate and just feel and grow like so much better and help your business. I love that.
Lean into your uniqueness.
Yes, the energy that you carry based on your self-love, it's like a beacon and attracts like the right individuals to where you are. And it's also just like, I don't know, I think it's a superpower to be able to be yourself. Like I always joke about, and I like tell this to everybody right off the bat, because since I have become a more confident person who have loved myself more, I do feel like I'm a little more like out there and weird and cringy. And I like now like to harness that as like my superpower. Being my like cringiest, weirdest self is like, it's great because it like detracts the people who I'm not going to be for, and attracts the like-minded people like who do have the same energy. So I think it's so important.
Yeah, and the people that matter don't think it's cringy.
Yeah. Yes.
Like the only people who think it's cringy are the ones who aren't your friends. Like who you probably don't want to hang out with anyways. So who cares what other people say about you? It doesn't matter. It doesn't change the truth of who you are. And again, doesn't change the truth of what God says about you. He says that you're fearfully and wonderfully made. So I don't really care what Bob down the street thinks about anything that I post or do, because who are you, Bob? Nobody knows you. You don't matter.
Yes.
Your opinion is not worthwhile in my life.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry to break the news to you. Doesn't mean that you're not like a valuable person and that you don't have value and worth in this life, but your opinion just doesn't have any value or worth in my life.
Exactly. Sorry, Bob. But
Bob
yeah,
in South Carolina. No.
Bob in South Carolina. We don't care if you don't see our worth. It's fine.
We don't care that you don't do any collabs about day in the life of a realtor with us. It's
I know,
fine.
we're so funny too. Like truly, that's like your loss. I think like understanding your worth really, really influences like the type of people that you like will engage with, and like, ultimately your partner. And I am going through this phase of life where I really am, I think for the first time in my life, like ready to go the next level with my business and like in my dating life, and like, find somebody, because I have done so much work in the last year on loving myself, and I am not in a perfect place. Like I do not do it perfectly. I still struggle with my worth, but I'm actually finding the things that I need, and I'm finally embracing for the first time. Like, okay, yes, Amber, like you are an emotional person sometimes, and that is like such a gift and so beautiful. And like you cry and you feel things deeply and you care about people, and like that is not something to be ashamed of. Just because there have been certain men in my life in the past who have thought that was too much. Like that is not
that
too
you're
much.
being dramatic for sharing your feelings.
Yeah, that it might, or having feelings that they are too much. Like I am now in this phase of life where I'm like wanting to love myself so much that I'm on just this level where I'm not even affected by the people anymore who don't see value in those things. Like that's where I'm trying to be at right now, and the vibration I'm trying to operate at, where I don't even care. Like I'm so proud to be a needy person. I thought that was like a wrong thing, but humans, we have needs. Like humans have needs, and loving yourself, I think, is acknowledging that you have needs and feelings, and that, you know, you're a human person and you communicate in a certain way and you have certain love languages. So I'm here to embrace that and tell that to the world. Like I'm weird. I'm cringy. All my clients can see it if they see me online. All of my friends can see it. Anybody who's dating me, this is who I am. I'm emotional. I love it. I've even been criticized for like, oh, you need so much attention. And I used to be like, no, I don't. I'm like, okay, yeah, maybe I do. I need attention. I was born to be on a stage. I've done entertainment my whole life. Like I love entertaining people and like having attention, not in a way that is destructive to people or like harmful or selfish, but in just like a way that's like my personality and I'm fine. Great.
Amber, is it that you need attention or that you have been uniquely gifted to be an extrovert and on a stage?
I like the way that you shaped that. I've been uniquely gifted.
Yeah.
But
You have a personality that's big. That's not a bad thing. Who wants to watch somebody boring on stage? Nobody. And guess what? That boring person doesn't want to be on the stage either because they're gifted for other things. So again, we all have different callings. We all have different purposes in this life. So just because you're out there doing things is not bad. Doesn't mean that you need attention. And if somebody is in a relationship saying that you are a needy person, and this is something that I've dealt with as well. All right. So what I was saying about, for our dear listeners, in case I'm not able to edit around this, we've just had technical difficulties in the middle of our conversation. So we'll see how this turns out. Don't actually feel like re-recording everything that we've already said though, because it was off the cuff and we're doing it live.
I love us anyway. I love us anyway, even with our technical difficulties over here.
We never claim to be pros at this.
No, it's the most lovable thing about us, our imperfections.
Yes. All right. So we were talking about being needy in friendships, and I used to think I was a needy friend. And then I found friendships where they made me feel valued. They made me feel secure. It was never like, oh, you're too much or you need too much. Because honestly, I was not asking for that much. I was asking for communication and like, hey, if I'm going through something, can you like be there for me? In those few times that I'm going through a thing, I'm always there for you. Is it really too much to ask that you be there for me as well? And up until that point, like all of my friends have been like, yeah, it is too much for us to be there for you the one time you need something. And I'm like, dang. And then like I had my best friend who's like still my best friend. And she's like, actually, you're not too much. She's like, these are all normal things to want and need in a friendship. And she was able to meet those needs. And like slowly but surely, it was such a healing process to like go through that and be like, and to feel validated and to feel secure in that friendship. And now that I've had like that healing and I've had this example of a good, really good friendship, I'm like, okay, I'm able to go into other friendships and other relationships more secure, you know, not having like that anxious attachment anymore. Just like, all right. And so again, when you love yourself and you recognize that, no, these aren't bad things to ask for. It's normal to want communication. It's normal to want to spend time with another person that you're in relationship with. Like these are all normal things. And if somebody is saying, oh, that's too much, then they're not the right person for you.
Yeah.
And that's fine. You know, we're not going to link up with everybody. We're not going to vibe with every single person. Our relationship styles aren't going to work for everyone. And that's okay. But like, let me go then. Let me go find somebody that does match me. Don't tell me that I'm wrong for wanting these things or needing these things.
Understanding your worth in action means like advocating for your needs and communicating them and your boundaries so that, you know, you can have something that's real and authentic and makes you happy rather than being in the relationships and the friendships and the work experiences that don't make you feel respected or worthy. Yeah. So
Those
that's
just
great.
aren't the right fits.
It's great when you can find someone who, like your friend, who was able to be that kind of healing person for you. And it's not that you can put all of your eggs in somebody else helping heal you, but I think it's such a good tool.
Yeah, it's when you meet those people or when you have those friendships and relationships that can help heal those things, that is a good thing. Now, again, it's not that like, oh, this is my one friend and I put all of my attention on, like you said, all my eggs in one basket. No, but like that's why we have people. That's why we surround ourselves with good people. Like you and I, we've had so many conversations that I hope is, you know, us being able to encourage and help one another through similar experiences of like, hey, I see that you're going through this thing. I've been through that. Let me help you through it, and vice versa. Like that's why we're in community with other people, is so that we can help each other through these different things.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So what are the ways that you've discovered like make you feel loved? Like what are your love languages? Because I think for me, I did not know. I literally within the last year of my life, Becca, as a 38-year-old woman, did not know what made me feel loved. Like I literally had to sit down and think about it. And you know that book, like the 5 love languages. I don't know that I've ever read or like if people actually read it, but people seem to love to be like, what's your love language? Like that's a thing that we say a lot to each other, but it is really, really true. I literally did not know. I didn't know. And I'm like, no wonder like I haven't gotten it. If I don't know, I can't communicate it. I can't respect myself enough. So that's what I've been discovering. I'm curious if you've done that work and you know what makes you feel loved.
So I don't know that I subscribe to the whole 5 love languages
Sure.
thing, but for me, words of affirmation are a big thing, and quality time. So quality time is a big part of how I show love to others because we have very busy schedules. So if I am carving out time in my schedule to spend time with you, it's because I care about you. And like, I want to put you on my calendar because one, I want to make sure I don't forget about you. I want to make sure I don't forget that you exist. And I want to make sure that we're spending that time together. And then the same thing on the other side of like, okay, if you've taken the time out to spend with me, that just, it makes me feel really good. It makes me feel valued. And then, you know, with the words of affirmation, who doesn't want to feel gassed up? Like everybody needs to hear those things. And I think for me, because I spent so much time like doing so much negative self-talk, it's helpful for me to hear it like positive words from other people. And then it helps me build myself back up as well, especially in those times when I'm feeling kind of low.
Yeah. And I think that's like perfectly like fine to want and need that. I think I'm very, very similar in that I've realized that I really do need somebody who can like verbalize and communicate and affirm me. And I think it is because I do have a past where I was like so verbally cut down like constantly. And so yes, I need to do that work in myself, but hearing it from other people just allows me to feel like safe and secure and like I can form emotional connections with people. And yeah, it's just all about, you know, learning that about myself so I can communicate that and I can attract that. And even if that's like not something that's super important to another person, I know that somebody who is going to be worthy of my time is going to find ways to make me feel valued in that way. Yeah.
I think too is recognizing if somebody else, like their way of showing love isn't the same as ours. I think we also need to learn to accept that as well. So like if somebody else, their thing is acts of service or giving gifts, even though that's not like one of my top things, recognizing, oh, this is how this partner or this friend wants to show me love, I'm going to receive that. So like my best friend, her thing is acts of service. And I'm like, I really appreciate it from her, even though it's not like my number one thing, because I know that that's important to her and that's her way of showing affection. It makes it more special to me because I know that that's like her number one way of doing it. And then, you know, she also meets me on my other things. So I think that's the important part too, is not just, well, this is just how I do things and you just have to take it however I want to give it. There needs to be a mixture of the two things of like meeting the other person's needs, but then also like recognizing the effort on that other person's part as well.
Yeah. I think another one of my love languages is sending memes.
Yes.
Just kidding. But
no, memes are a love language.
It is a love language. But I think what I like about it is it really shows you like when somebody, I have this friend. I'm going to tell you about one of my friends. And she shows love by, she discovered TikTok during the pandemic, as the world did, right?
Yes.
So she gets everything in her life from TikTok. She learns recipes, like new interests, products she wants to buy. Everything comes from TikTok. And so she spends a lot of her free time on it. And so she sends me TikToks constantly. Anytime I truly only use TikTok to like log in and watch the content she sends. And I can't do it very often, but when I do, I will binge it. And it's so curated. Like this friend shows me that she knows me like so well, better than like an algorithm does, because everything she sends me because she's like, oh, Amber would really, this would be useful for her, or she would appreciate this, or this is something that we both connect on together and can laugh. But she will send me stuff that I know is not even interesting or relevant to her life, because it's her way of showing me like, I know you, I see you, and I love you. And it's just like a funny way. Like you can tell by like the type of like content and reels and memes that people send you. I don't know. I think it's just like this fun, weird, like meaningful way to feel seen and understood in the world in some silly way. And so that's like kind of a fun love language. Just like when somebody can recognize the things that you like and they're interested in them. And even if it's stuff that doesn't interest them, they're like willing to put in the effort. So I don't know. That's one of the fun ways that my friends have taught me.
I agree with that. Now, I have a gripe with you.
Oh,
I've sent you so many TikToks in the past, Amber. You
yes.
never opened them, so I've stopped sending them to you.
That is.
I have a 3-strike rule. I'm like, if you don't want the memes and the reels that I'm going to send, then you get none of them.
That's fair. That is a fair boundary because I am that person who I will like log in once a month and watch them all. And then ideally I will react back to them. But like sometimes my ADHD, I'm like off to the next thing. So yeah. I'm sorry, Becca. I can't. I will try and do better in that area.
I'm not sending you any more TikToks. I'm not spending the emotional energy there. Okay. I'm going to send them to people who are going to respond to them, who will value them. I still love you as my friend, but you do not get a perfectly curated TikTok feed.
That is fair. That's fair. That that's good for you. Self-love.
Self-love. This is how you also set healthy boundaries.
Save the emotional energy. To be fair, my friend who does send me all that, like I don't send her TikToks because I don't get scroll. I don't know. I'm not good enough at TikTok. I do send people reels often. I'm probably not as thoughtful about it as other people. Like I'm like, oh, this is something I think is funny more than something that
what a man thing to do.
It is a very man thing to do. It is. That is the biggest difference I notice between my female friends and my male friends is the content that they send me. Men tend to send me stuff that they think is funny, and I'm a little bit like scratching my head, like okay,
is that funny?
And then my female friends, it's like, oh, Amber would appreciate that. They know me so intimately well that they like, send it to me.
I will say with my male friends, I think it's like 50-50. So like 50% will send stuff that I'm like, that's only funny to you. And then the other half, they send stuff that they know that I will think is funny. But I think that's because we have the same humor. So is it just because they think it's, I don't know.
Or is that what the friendship is built off of? I don't know. I don't know. Yeah. But okay, so I got to do better in my content TikTok sending with Becca because
we just had a moment there. But again, is it being too needy, or is this me like recognizing that, you know what, this is not where Amber, like this is not where she hangs out. So this is not where we're going to connect. And that's okay. Like we can still be friends. I think there's a difference between if I said, hey, it's super important to me that you watch all the TikToks that I send you.
I would.
Then you would, but it's like, it's honestly not that important. It's really not.
We have other things.
Yeah. We have other things that we can communicate. And so I think it's important to be able to talk about the big and the small things that can cause little gripes in your relationships. But again, I feel like we've kind of gotten off the love yourself thing a little bit, but I think at the same time, this all goes back to loving yourself and being able to express your needs and your desires in a relationship, whether it be a friendship or a romantic relationship or in business. If you do not have a firm grasp on yourself and loving yourself and knowing what you want and what you need, it's really hard for you to communicate that out to anybody else. Mm-hmm. And so again, they're not going to know how to treat you, and then you will continue to be upset with how people are treating you because they're not meeting your needs that you have not communicated out.
Yeah. I think it all goes back to self-love. I think a lot of times when we think of like the cliche self-love and self-care, we're like, oh, like bath time with a candle and meditating.
And that works for some, but not for others.
That is one way to love yourself and care about yourself. But I think knowing that what your needs are and knowing where you're at emotionally and what you want out of life and being able to communicate it and setting standards for yourself, I think that is true self-love. Knowing your worth and attracting the love that you deserve cannot be overstated. It's so, so important. And that's like the thing that's the most relevant in my life. And I know the thing that affects my relationships and my business the most. And it's going to affect the quality of everything that I do. So like while we are getting off track, I think that these are all things we struggle with when we're struggling with figuring out how to love ourselves, and that our needs are okay and that everything's okay. And somebody who does not love us, it's not our limitation, it's theirs. That's what I work on so much. I have to do this work every single week, Becca, every single week. And probably for the rest of my life, I have to work on really, really knowing that I am lovable and that I am worthy, regardless of anything else.
Do you do daily affirmations or anything like that?
I would say I don't have a really consistent practice and anything like that, but I do try. I do a lot. I've worked with a lot of different therapists and practitioners and stuff to learn different tools that have helped me kind of reprogram. Self-love for me has been letting myself take the time to like grieve stuff that has not worked out in my past, and to learn what my needs are and to learn how to communicate them enough where I can undo toxic patterns in my life and in my business. To me, that is what self-love has been, because I was in such a place in my life not that long ago where I could not tell the difference between love and honestly like abuse. I could not tell the difference because I have a past where love was inconsistency, invalidation, gaslighting. You just never feeling safe or secure or validated or seen or affirmed. So I had to actually learn, maybe more than most people do, what love looks like, how I can recognize it, and what my needs are. So yeah, the practices I've done, I've been like working on those patterns, those negative self-beliefs that were reinforced over and over again because of the type of love that I allowed to stay in my life, so that I can do better moving forward.
In business, what would you say has been the biggest change that you've had to make?
Some of the biggest changes I've had to make is learning how to set boundaries with clients. I used to really work out of maybe like a less of a prosperity mindset where I was so afraid that somebody would write a bad review about me, because there is this really unrealistic expectation in the real estate industry that you are all things to all people at all times. And if you are not the real estate agent who's going to answer your phone 24/7, 365, they're going to find somebody else who will. And so I've had to rework that and say, you know what, if I lose business because I'm going to have a boundary of this is how I communicate, and I can't be the everything to you. All I can be is your real estate agent. Like I can't take on, so many things, like the emotional toll of this or that. I fired a client just over a year ago for the very first time ever. Before I would work with anybody and I would just take anything. And then I had a client who in a very, very competitive market got really angry and aggressive and started yelling at me on the phone. And they were yelling and yelling and yelling at me. And I realized, wait a minute, I've learned to love myself. And one boundary that means, like, self-love for me is I'm not around yelling. I don't let anybody in my life yell at me anymore. And so I don't need this person's business. And so respectfully, I'm going to not work with you anymore. Like, best of luck. And that was like a huge shift in my business when I learned that I could say no. So setting boundaries has been a huge thing. It's still a struggle. It's not like I figured it out one day and I do it perfectly, but it's a journey. And I'm also looking for like systems and processes of like how I can vet people and keep things like very professional. I know I've shared with you, I have a lot of struggles of dealing with different things, like when a client like tries to hit on me or date me, like that is a struggle for me. And that's something I've had to learn how to work through and set boundaries with. So like learning that stuff.
And that is tough. It's so hard when you don't know, are they just a flirty person? Are they asking on a date? Is this a business thing? It's tough. It's tough with that. Yeah. I'm going through a similar one right now. Well, I told you about him like before the break, the client dinner that I'm like, wait, is this a date? I didn't mean to agree to a date. I thought it was a client thing. And now it's like, what do you do with that? Anyways.
Yeah, it's a struggle. It's not like it's not a perfect system, but like
No.
sometimes self-love is saying like, I got to set like a better boundary around stuff like that. And it's just a learning curve.
Yeah, it is. It's unfortunately there's no like black and white way of doing it. Of like, this is just how you do things. And it'll perfectly follow all of that, because that's not real life.
It's not real life.
But like you said, it is a journey. You know, where I was 10 years ago and where I am today on that self-love journey are two very different places. But I feel like I'm a way more secure, better person now than I ever was then. Like, you probably wouldn't even recognize me back then, Amber.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I don't know that we would have been friends back then.
Yeah. Yeah. Who knows? So you've done like a lot of work on all that. I think for people like us who are in an industry like we are, I think, you know, I've really succeeded pretty well, I think, in the loving myself department, where I don't really compare my career and
super smart
stuff to other people. And I don't know why I'm better at that than other areas of my life. Like, I feel like I really am like fulfilled for the most part. I mean, I do fall into that same comparison trap, but not that often. And so for me, I don't even let my brain go there. And that's something that I've learned as like a way to love myself. And I do think it makes my business better. And I think that focusing on adding value to like other real estate agents and to my friends and my friendships, like that comes back to you, you know, a rising tide raises all ships. So not having that like kind of
scarcity
sharky
mindset.
Yeah, sharky scarcity mindset that's so prevalent in the real estate industry, where people are cutting each other down and comparing and all this competition instead of helping each other and building each other up. That's a way that I've found like brings love back to me, and it protects me. You know, I'm a fragile human that like feels things. And so I can love myself that way by just seeing my value and that I'm different. I'm different than these other people. They might do more business this way, but maybe I have more fun doing, you know, like we all have our different things. So.
And that's the thing, is like, you can't compare yourself to anybody else, whether it's in business, in your relationships, your status in life, what you look like, what you don't look like, what your personality is. We are all uniquely gifted. We all have a different purpose on this earth, and we're meant to impact the people around us in different ways. And that's a really beautiful thing, that we have so much diversity in this world and in our lives. There's still so much that we can say, obviously, about not comparing yourself and how to love yourself. But some of that stuff about the whole comparison game, I actually want to get into more next week. Talk about Mean Girls. This is a story that was requested by one of our listeners. And I think we have a lot to say on that one. But for now, focus on loving yourself and lean into those unique giftings that you have.
Yeah.
Just know that you are fearfully and wonderfully made, and you have a purpose here on this earth.
And it's a journey. It's a journey. You don't have to have it all figured out right now, but it's so beautiful. I hope everybody out there can find the same tools and find the right people and business that can mirror back your self-worth, and just know that if you do the work, it's not easy. You find that in yourself, you're going to start attracting the right kind of love into your life when you know and see and work on loving yourself.
Yes. Just one day at a time.
That's right. We're all just girls in the market learning to love ourselves. So thanks for tuning in today. We'll see you next time. Bye.